Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, an iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville, in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts, in the shadow of the Great Blue Hills. We are so delighted that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading and to give parents the tools they can use to help their kids understand that everyone they meet deserves to be loved, respected, and included. Please be sure to subscribe to this show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Himalaya, Stitcher Radio, Ghana, Podbean, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guest today is Duri Durbin. She'll be here to celebrate Little Cat and Dog Birthday Bake. Before we invite Duri into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by the books by Ruth Maley, the Power Series, The Power of Gratitude, Unlocking Hidden Treasures, The Power of Kindness Through the Eyes of Children, and The Power of Positivity, The ABCs of a Pandemic. These books are simply wonderful. All three are Reading with Your Kids certified great reads. Our panel loves these books. Talk about a positive message. Talk about inspiring kids. And talk about a character that kids are really going to identify with. Orbit is such an adorable character. Your kids are going to fall in love. They're also going to love the illustrations. This is just such a wonderful series that would absolutely be a great addition to any family library. It's The Power of Books by Ruth Maley, The Power of Kindness Through the Eyes of Children, The Power of Gratitude, Unlocking Hidden Treasures, and The Power of Positivity, The ABCs of a Pandemic, all available on Amazon. Join us right now from the great state of Michigan. Our guest today is here to celebrate the latest in her Little Cat's Feeling series. It's called Little Cat and Dog Birthday Bake. Please welcome to the show, Duri Durbin. Hey, Duri, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jed. Thank you.
I'm excited.
Thank you for having me.
You're very, very welcome. I'm excited to have you on. Duri and I were just talking about the unique personalities of cats and how they differ from dogs. So I'm excited for you to tell us what Little Cat and Dog Birthday Bake is all about.
So it's a little more personified than the normal little cat that you think of. Actually, little cat and dog are best friends, and they are. This is an older version of some of the books that I've already written that are picture books. In this particular one, little cat is disappointed in herself because she realizes she's forgotten about her best friend's birthday and hasn't planned ahead enough to get a present. In the meantime, dog is super exuberant and hyper and just can't believe that there's a single person who wouldn't want to celebrate his birthday with him. And so he comes in full force telling her about his birthday, and little cat realizes that, we all do this. We forgot about it, right? So the whole scheme of the book is kind of a parallel story where we see little cat making decisions and trying to solve her problem. And dog starting to realize that he just sort of, he can't assume that everyone feels the same about his birthday as he does. So there are two friendships that develop and change as they go. And then towards the end, everybody comes back together. And of course, that's hopefully when the reader and the parents get to experience the lessons that these characters have learned.
You know, it's interesting. You bring up something that I never thought about. I absolutely remember being 5 or 6 or 7 and, looking forward to a birthday or a special event or a vacation and not having the understanding that maybe not everybody's feeling the same way or even acknowledging that this special day is coming up. When do you think most kids realize that the world, well, I guess some kids never realize this, but when do you think most kids realize that the world doesn't completely revolve around them?
All right. So I have a 19-year-old. I'm still waiting, Jed. I think they get better at it. And I think it's probably about middle school, maybe, where you start to kind of say, oh, there's things going on that we're going to do, and we're not going to spend the whole day celebrating my day. We're going to go to sporting events, and we have to go to this other thing that I didn't really want to go to, and it's my birthday. Mm-hmm. And I think even as adults, sometimes we feel that way. I remember being with my kids. It's a great event. It's a national track meet where like everybody was super excited about it. And seriously, I'm being a little selfish, but everyone forgot my birthday. And so at the end of the day, somebody said, oh, hey, your birthday. And then it was kind of like the little cat thing, like it was today. And I'm like, yeah, and it is, it's something that, that I think for such a long time, it's such a big deal. And so there is a disappointment level to that. But yeah, I think it takes a while to outgrow that.
Yeah. I do remember, I have a March birthday, and 1 year it fell on Easter. And it was, I remember sitting outside my aunt's house in the suit and tie that I hated, because I hated to get the suit and tie on, but I had to because it was Easter Sunday, and just sulking outside. It's the only time I remember sulking, but sulking outside because it's my birthday. Yeah. And, and that's a pretty big event, being on stage by Easter. Yeah, that's okay.
It's right, yeah. Oh, I love it. And it's hard to negotiate those feelings, especially like in that case, but any time where your birthday isn't made as big a deal, and I think the flip to that too is like forgetting about the birthday, the other side of the shoe where you really know in your heart that you want to do something and you didn't remember, or you feel like a terrible friend because of it, working through some of those situations too, the feelings inside.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. I mean, I don't think that I was able to identify what my feelings were sitting outside my aunt's house in my blazer. I just know that I was sad and I just knew I wasn't feeling good. I don't know if I had the words. How can we as parents help our kids start to identify those feelings? And I guess that's like kind of the first step to starting to understand them. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's hard as a child to be able to identify and split even between feelings and emotions, because I think feelings in itself is how you feel inside, and it may not have a specific word. Like we're quick to put words on things and say, oh, you feel sad, you feel frustrated. But in reality, sometimes we feel things and we can't even put our finger on it, right? And so I think the first thing is being able to identify that those feelings are happening for kids. And, I don't know about other parents, but as a parent, I feel like it's my job to solve my kids' problems. And in reality, it's really not my job. My job is to help them make them more aware of how they feel inside, like bring awareness to themselves. And that's really hard because I want to solve it, Jed, and make it right. So I think the very first step is saying, hey, what are you feeling? Just reflecting that back to the child and saying, tell me what is going on, and it can be anything from, my heart is racing, I feel sick, my stomach hurts, some of those physical symptoms typically come up first. And then we can start to kind of whittle away and say, well, why is that? And start those conversations. And I think that's where books are great, because you can actually pull that book alongside and say, here's a scenario, what was going on in this case, and have you ever felt like that before? I did and I don't know, maybe you know this already, but I did a conference for parents, and it was called Little Kids, Big Feelings. And I talked to psychologists, I talked to counselors, and it was all kind of the same thing, like we're quick to label. We need to back up and let the kids talk, and then teach them from a very early age to be aware of themselves. And again, that's something that we want to fix. Your child is crying. What can I do quick to fix this? No, okay. So even though they're little, there has to be ways that we can look around them and help them to discover what's going to make them happier.
Right. So this is a long answer. I'm sorry.
No, and it's very complete. It's a complex subject, and you bring up something that I don't think we've talked enough about here on the podcast. We've talked a lot about parents who want to bubble wrap their kids and prevent their kids from feeling any kind of disappointment. And we don't keep score on this athletic field because we don't want you to feel bad that you might have lost. And we don't want you to take risks. We don't want you to get a scraped knee or a bumped head. And, we've talked a lot about how parents just kind of got to let your kids go out there and experience the world. But we haven't talked about what you just addressed, the parents who allow their kids to go out and get the scrape, get the bump, and then are really quick to come and go, okay, I'm going to fix it. And that's probably just as an inappropriate action to take. It's natural to feel that way, but it's not so great to always act on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm guilty. I am 100% guilty. I actually am trying to think if I know a parent who isn't guilty of that to some level, because that's our job. Our job is to protect them, but our other job that becomes important much later is for them to figure out how to do things on their own and navigate life through their own eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say that now having, a freshman in college and a junior in high school. I can say that where I could not say that back when they were 3.
Yeah.
I was saving them,
Yeah, absolutely. I have a feeling the reason we haven't talked about it here on the podcast is it probably makes me uncomfortable because that was me. Yeah. And I mean, and that's okay. I mean, if we were talking one-on-one, I'd say, it's okay, Jed. It's all right. Because the thing is we're not perfect and it's a process, right? But it's hard to not be perfect. And I think as parents, we have to let go of trying to be perfect. We have to do the best we can do in the information that we have and make a decision. And that's what we have to teach our kids. Yeah. Yes. One of the pieces of advice that I share with young parents, if I'm ever asked, is to climb off that I'm perfect pedestal as soon as possible. Jump if you have to, because our kids put us up there, and it's a very precarious place. And if we're up there for too long, and we're eventually going to fall off, and the sooner we fall off, the easier it is for our kids and us to deal with.
It's true. Yeah. That is very true. And they'll come to you with things because they know you're not perfect and they know that you've experienced what they're dealing with. Whereas if you're perfect all the time, they're not going to come to you because they're going to think, well, she won't understand or he won't understand because they have never felt like this.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's probably one of the best gifts that we can give our kids is to let them know that, not in the way that a lot of parents do, like, I'm almost 100 years old. Whatever you did, I did 2 times, and I know all about that stuff. Can't get anything over on me. But instead, just saying to kids, hey, I've been there. I've made these mistakes, and I learned from them. Maybe I can help you learn from them. Maybe I can share some of my experience so you don't have to feel the pain that I felt.
Yeah. And honestly, you might do that, and they might still make decisions that you wouldn't make, but at least they know that they can come to you and that door is open because they know that you've experienced some of those disappointments or feelings.
Yeah. I had an interesting conversation with my niece who is 18 not too long ago, and I kind of said those words. I'm like, hey, I've had some experience, and I'd love to share this with you, this insight. And she said, no, thanks. I'm 18 now. It's time for me to go out and fail and learn from that. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Let me know how that works out.
Yeah, it's hard. It's so hard, but she's right. And yeah, you were very gracious in not cramming it down her throat still, You
do gain some wisdom when you live almost 100 years. So, tell me, what was the inspiration for you to create this series?
So, okay, I actually have to go way back because I taught in high school also, and I just loved the process to begin with. COVID was like an open door for me because, all the other windows and doors were shutting, and I could get online and I could get a little confidence in some skills that I had that I kind of kept quiet. So I've always written, I've always drawn. And so I finally got brave enough and took a class that somehow made me more certified, except I'm not sure it did. But I took this class. It gave me confidence. And I came up with this first book. And ironically, the book came out right before Michigan went into shutdown. So I got in one school visit, which was our local school that my husband's the superintendent of, got that visit in, and everything shut down. My book is called Little Cat Needs Space. So, 6-foot rule, all of those things, all of a sudden were just average common language. And not that my book referred specifically to that, but it was about asking for space that you need and exploring how that felt. And I thought, this is crazy, timing and everything. So that's when Little Cat, the character, and Dog came out in the book. And again, those were kind of off of my own kids and off of our pets that were in the house. And, you're stuck in the house. You don't have space. Even if you have space, after a while, it feels like you don't. So there were a lot of conversations that were coming up, that were sometimes filtered and none. And it just felt like, this is a topic that really has some weight to it. So yeah, it was kind of an amazing thing, amazing transformation that happened.
Yeah. I digress a little bit here, but I remember you mentioning, we all need 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
And I remember when we first went into that 2 weeks of lockdown and hearing, and when we get back together, we're all going to keep 6 feet apart and kids are going to be able to go to school. And I'm thinking, a line of kindergarten kids, of 20 kindergarten kids standing 6 feet apart from each other. All right, so that's going to run the length of a football field. How's that going to work?
Yeah, it really, luckily, they were able to function knowing that it was an attempt and not, that it was like, it wasn't in that instant. I don't want to say it wasn't life and death, but these are little kids that already have impulse control issues. So
yes.
Like having 6 feet is crazy to try to maintain all the time. It's just really, really hard.
Yeah. What things that you learned. And it seems like, I was going to say, it seems like yesterday went into lockdown. It actually seems like it's about 20 years ago.
It does. That was quite the process. And, you think about, and back to the social emotional learning and some of the feelings the kids dealt with, like you think about even just that one simple thing of having to stay in line 6 feet apart and not touch anybody and wear your mask and not breathe, too heavy, or if you have a cough or whatever they were told, how that affects their growing up, how that affects the socialization. It's just a totally different world that they grew up in than, let's say, you and I did, where like you could hang all over the person and breathe in their face. Now, not preferred, but it wasn't a big deal. That physical contact wasn't a big deal at all.
Yeah. And I think we don't realize this, but those 5-year-olds that I was talking about who were in kindergarten, back in March 2020, they've spent more than 20% of their life under lockdown. That to us, 2 years, it was an annoyance. It was bothersome. It had some effect on us, but it was a very small percentage of our overall life. This is for those 4, 5, 6-year-old, even 10-year-olds. It's been a long chunk of their life, and I think we're going to be feeling the effects of this. Kids are going to be processing this for many years to come.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think as parents, we've navigated through it, but as a society, we won't see how it's affected us until they're quite a bit older. Just because we don't know developmentally how it's changed them. We don't have any parameters. It's so uncharted that they're becoming kind of like our study subjects in a way because we just don't know.
Yeah. Well, it means that we're going to have a need for books that address social emotional learning for a long time. Do you have plans on more books in the series?
So I have 3 right now. I have the 2 picture books. I should say I have Little Cat Needs Space and then Little Cat Feels Left Out. And then this older one is for 7 to 10-year-olds, which is like an early chapter book. So I've been doing school visits this last, couple of weeks with March is reading month. And I have, I have lots of requests right now. I'll say it that way. Lots of suggestions, lots of characters that they want to see. So yes, for sure I will be doing that. But I will definitely stick with the trying to work through emotions and try to understand how we make choices and what we're feeling concept within them.
Yeah. Let's go back just a little bit to what we were talking about earlier and just helping kids identify those feelings or helping them express what the feelings are. How can we, if you suggest that we do this, how can we help kids connect those feelings and understand, well, I'm feeling this pain. Maybe it's because I'm sad, or maybe it's because I'm mad or disappointed, or a combination of those. Do we have those conversations with kids?
So I think we do. I really do, because even if they understand what they're feeling, that might not translate to an adult. Let's say you're in a classroom and, hopefully most teachers would be kind of alert of physical body symptoms and, relating those to feelings, but it's still different. It's individualized, right? So if we can teach them, like sometimes when your stomach is upset, it can be, you're sick, you could be nervous, you could be tired, and start to work on some of these common language experiences that they can translate to the teachers. I think that's pretty important. Mm-hmm. And then, you think about talking to people day to day and even their own peers. Most kids will understand I'm not happy, or I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm sad, all those basic human emotions that we refer to. And so you need to spend that time kind of addressing it. Now, doing it without telling them exactly what's going on, that's the tricky part. And I think that comes down to these conversations and understanding, how those feelings are being reflected out by the kid. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. It would be so much easier if our job was just to fix all our kids' problems.
I agree. I think a big Band-Aid would be great.
Yeah, but it's not. We do have to let our kids get those bumps and bruises, and we do have to let them solve the problems by themselves. We can add that input, give them suggestions, but ultimately they're going to have to learn if they're going to be healthy, if they're going to grow up to be healthy adults, happy adults, they're going to have to learn how to deal with those problems on their own. And they can do it. They can do it. And parents, you can do it too. You can learn how to chill and let your kids live their lives.
Yeah, and I think sometimes just having the parents aware, we've been saying, they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to solve the problems. They should talk to their kids about what the kids are experiencing. And then just verbally demonstrating what they're feeling. If you have a bad day, you can hide it. You can be less appropriate word-wise, or you can say, I'm sort of disappointed in my day because, and maybe not give them all the details, because honestly, the kids don't need that. They just need to know that you're human and that sometimes you have days where you're disappointed or you feel certain things, and have those conversations as modeling to them, and helping them to understand and make connections for themselves.
Yeah. I think that's really, really, really important. And I think this is a good note and a good message to end on. So why don't you tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Little Cat and Dog Birthday Bake and find out more about you?
Sure. So all three of my books, especially this most recent one, Little Cat and Dog's Birthday Bake, they're all on Amazon, and they're also on Barnes & Noble. I also have a website, which is just my www.Duri, D-O-R-I, Durbin, DURBIN.com. I'm also on Instagram as Duri Durbin, and Twitter and LinkedIn. So I'm all over. You can find me pretty easily, I hope.
Awesome. And we always love to remind folks that you can go to your local independent bookstore and ask them to order it if they don't have it on the shelves. And also, one of the neat things is that we can go to our public library and request that they stock the book at the library. That way it gets out there to a whole lot more people.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. We've had a great time speaking about a lot of different things, starting by speaking about cats with our guest, the author of Little Cat and Dog Birthday Bake, Duri Durbin. Hey, Duri, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much, Jed, and thank you, everybody, for listening.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Tammy Kirkness. She is the author of Why Do I Feel So Worried? Follow the Arrows from Anxiety to Calm, a guide for kids and parents. This is a fascinating conversation you don't want to miss. It's a great way to learn how you can inspire your kid to understand that your uniqueness can be a superpower. That's the next episode of the podcast. Speaking of superpower, if you're the author of a great children's book, I bet you wish you had the superpower of letting the world know all about your book. Well, you don't have to have a superpower. All you have to do is to go to readingwithyourkids.com, click on the author's click here button at the top of the page, and tap in to the superpower of the Reading with Your Kids podcast to celebrate your book. You can be a guest here on the podcast. You can learn how at readingwithyourkids.com. Or you can submit your book to our Certified Great Read panel to see if you can earn our seal of approval. You can learn about that at readingwithyourkids.com. Oh, and you can find out about our fantastic promotion packages. We can celebrate your book with commercials here in the podcast, with messages to our 76,000 social media followers, and have your book displayed on our nationwide network of digital pedestrian billboards. This month, thousands and thousands and thousands of people attending the Boston Marathon will see our digital pedestrian billboard in Brookline, Massachusetts. Your book could be there. Hey, check it all out at readingwithyourkids.com. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Chris, I want to start by thanking our guest, Duri Durbin. Please be sure to check out Little Cat and Dog Birthday Bake. Also want to thank our sponsor, the books by Ruth Maley, the Power Series, the Power of Kindness, the Power of Gratitude, and the Power of Positivity, available on Amazon. My team, I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Skylar Strauss. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.